Good. All right, I want to work on a pose. It's one we probably recognize. But you know, the thing about traditional poses is that there are a lot of different pieces of them. And the more pieces there are, it's more like trying to keep plates spinning. We lose track of one thing because we're working on another thing. And so we're going to re-examine the side angle pose. We're going to start it from a high line, move through more of a medium, and then into potentially a low position. And the thing about it is it's sort of a, choose your own adventure kind of thing. You don't necessarily say, well, because we're looking at this lower thing, I have to go to the lower thing. No. And also, just because you can put your hip in a very low position, don't disregard the higher positions. It really is a lot of insight. When we take away some of the amount of effort, we can actually focus a little bit better on some of the more important parts. So here we're going to start with a pose. Now when we get into a pose, there are many different approaches, and I'm going to create an easier line for us. We're going to be coming from sort of an up-down method. So we'll be standing to get into the pose versus being in a tabletop or something like that. So first things first, we're going to choose to be at one edge of our mat. We've got plenty of room to step back, and the feet start off where they are hip distance wide, and I point out to us that our pelvis starts off facing the front edge of the mat, and that's going to change for the side angle pose. So we're going to be stepping our right leg back. Now the distance back is variable, so just step it back a pleasing amount. It doesn't have to be very far back because we're intending to stay up pretty high. Now at that moment that we step the leg, if we stepped it far enough back, it would be a natural tendency for that right side of the pelvis to now be behind the left side of the pelvis if we're comparing that to the front edge of the mat. It's about a 45-degree angle that's typical. The chest can turn either direction without it affecting the shape of the pelvis. Now for the side angle pose, we're going to be bending the left leg. But I want you to notice right now, hopefully, your left ankle and knee and hip are lined up as if the left side of you is against a wall. So I don't have the hips more toward the center or out to the side right now, nor should that change. I'm going to bend my left knee and put it just directly over the left ankle, not forward of, although behind the line is possible with slight bend, and it would be a good choice if your knee is particularly uncomfortable. But ultimately, the desired line is the knee directly over that ankle. Now, the right side of our pelvis is still pressed back, and what I want to do is I want to press into both of my feet and feel them, good arches, and feel the engagement of the leg structure. Because we're going to stay up really high with our first one, we're going to put just the left hand on the knee. Now, I want the shoulders to line up pretty much with the hips, although it's not inappropriate to pull the shoulder back behind the line of that right hip side of the pelvis there. Because the shoulder can turn and it doesn't mess up what the hip is doing. But here's the thing, you see this angle of my leg? Well, for the proper pose, what I want to do is I want to take this right arm for the traditional side angle and make it match up with that leg. So it's not so much a straight forward that I'm reaching, but more of I want it to be lined up. So I'm not back here, but I'm a little bit forward. So I'm matching up the angle. You can see that angle all the way down to the ankle and through the arm. Now, I want to increase the length of this side that's close to the floor, the left side, and I want to increase the length of the right side, wrist reaching away, so that both sides of me are really reaching, both heels are pushing down. Breathe in nice and deep. It should feel pretty strong. And then to come out of it, I'll just lift upward to bring myself up and out. Now, even if you're used to doing a deeper pose, we should have felt like, wow, there's a lot of things going on right here. And it's hard, as I said, to keep track of all the moving parts. So, let's do side two. Let's get used to it. We stand, again, feet hip distance, and basically pelvis right now facing the front edge of the mat. We're going to step the left leg back. And again, the distance I step back, very much an individual thing. But it tends to put the pelvis in a 45-degree line compared to the front edge of the mat. And I want to make sure that my right ankle and knee and hip are lined up as if against a flat wall. Okay. Now in this position, we get a good arch. We're going to bend our right knee directly over that ankle so the shin makes a nice perpendicular line to the floor. Our shoulders can move in any direction and it doesn't have to move the pelvis. And we're going to put our right hand on that knee and lengthen that right side. The hip is still over the knee and in line with the ankle. Now my left arm is going to reach away from that left ankle. And so I'm just trying to make a solid line between my ankle and my wrist. So right side's going to get longer and left side's going to reach longer too. As I said, the shoulder could be back more, forward more, and you just stretch in a way that's comfortable and meaningful, and just take a deep breath in. And then we exhale by pointing up and lifting ourselves all the way up and out. Now the high line is really good, especially if we're just beginning and we don't have a lot of hip flexibility. If we have some knee issues, that's really great. But maybe we want to challenge ourselves just a little bit more. And it's possible to get into a lower line, either by stepping the leg further back or just by lowering the chest. Both things are very good. I like sort of a combination of both, a slightly greater step backward. So here's how we do it. We don't necessarily step back as far as we can at first. We step back that reasonable amount, okay? So once I'm in that position, pelvis canted back at about a 45-degree angle, I'm making sure that my left leg is nicely aligned as if against a flat wall. I'm going to bend the left knee over the ankle. Now, when I bring now, instead of my hand, I bring my elbow down, I feel like I'm sort of, I'm at an angle that I would prefer not to have. So I'm going to step my right leg a little further back to bring my hip on this left side down. You notice when I was here, this hip is higher than the knee by quite a bit. When I step the foot back a little bit, that hip is coming down to being closer to the knee height, and that's determining how much my left leg is working hard. Make sure that your hips aren't boinking out to the side, sending your chest into the center, that you've got to pull your hip underneath you. It's in line with the knee and the ankle on that left side, that left knee trying to move off to the left. Now this left side, that elbow down, allows me to really pull that left side nice and long. And now we see the angle where my ankle is. I'm just going to take that arm and I'm going to reach it at that angle. And the shoulder over shoulder position is more noticeable the lower the hips go. Reach your wrist away from your ankle, feel your heels pressing, keep that hip to the center, left knee toward the left angle, take a deep breath in, and as we exhale we're just going to point up and it's going to be a whoa, push into that leg to bring yourself up and out of that. Alright, so that was like, wow, my left leg got tired, more so than in the higher line, which is a good thing. Tired muscles get stronger. Okay, let's do the second side. So now we start off in our stance, we step the leg back. It doesn't have to be significantly further back. I can move it backward once I'm more in the pose. I'm going to bend the right knee directly over the ankle. That outer hip and knee and ankle are lined up. I'm going to come into position with my right elbow on the knee, and I feel like, well, I think I could take it further back, because here's my hip. It's higher, and I'm just going to step backward and bring my hip a little bit lower, so I can just sort of judge and keep a nice width, etc. Now, in this position, I make sure that my right knee and hip and ankle are all in line. I lengthen along the right side, just using that right arm to pull, and then I got to make that line between the ankle and the wrist. I'm going to stretch, reaching the wrist, so I wasn't far forward enough with that one, reaching, and then that heels are pressing, hips toward the center, right knee toward the edge. I should be feeling like the right leg is feeling it. Breathe in nice and deep. And then when we're ready, we point up, and that nice strong lifting up and out of that brings us away from that. It's like, okay, right leg got a little tired too. Now that might be as low as you would intend to go. In fact, you may say, you know what, I'd really like to not go down that low this next time. And that's fine, because we're going to be readjusting ourselves as we go. And that's what I want you to know, is that if you're nice and wide on your mat, you can adjust a lot of different things, just moving the foot further forward, further back, and get some things. You can have your hand on the knee or the elbow on the knee. But this time, if you have a block, if you want to put the block near you, or if you know that you have the flexibility for your hand to come close to the floor, we're going to go a little bit lower. Or at least potentially, you go where you want. I'm just going to take us through the stages. So here we start, all right, so we step that right leg back. And in that position, pelvis canted backward, left leg lined up like a wall, left knee over ankle. I make sure the hips stay in the center, that left knee moving toward the edge. And then the hand of the knee, this is level 1 of the higher line, that left hip rather high over the knee. And I stretch like so. But if I feel that I could go a little further, I bring the elbow, but I want to bring that foot further back, all right? And then I make that line of length, hips in center, knee toward edge, doing that same thing, knee over ankle. Great, and if I want to go even lower, then I step back even more, and now I'm pretty low. And instead of having the hand on the knee, although I could keep it there, I'm going to put it to the inside edge, because that helps me keep that knee from pushing inward. I just bring it down there either on a block or all the way down, and now we see the line that we want to recreate is a lot more forward than it was before. Heels pressing down nice long. It's hard to hold a lower line of action. So if you were like, nope, don't want to do that, you could bring the elbow back on the knee, move the foot a little closer, and recreate the line. Or you say, nope, I want to be up higher. Well, all of that is still possible. And in fact, by going through all of that, I have really worked my leg. Okay, so now we've got the other side, So we're going to be stepping that left leg back, putting our pelvis in a 45-degree angle. We're going to keep that right leg lined up as we put the knee over its ankle, not forward of that. Our first one is the hand to the knee, hips and center, knee toward the edge. I've got the angle that I want to recreate, and so it's not straight forward, just a nice little angle right there of that side. And then I'm just going to bring my elbow down, and if I want, I can step my foot further back to bring the hip a little bit lower, and that might be a really great place to work. Hips in the center, knee toward the edge. Don't forget about that alignment. And then the arm stretching away from the ankle. And then if I said, I think I can go a little lower, then I'd step that further back, sink that hip down to about the knee height. Really feeling it now. Knee toward the edge, that left foot, little toe edge, still got to press into the floor. And hips in the center, and then that arm reaching forward, and it's like, yep, I feel like I'm working now. Breathing deeply, but if I wanted to, oh, that's right, hand down. Oh, I was about to get away with it. Breathing deeply. There we go. And then, yeah, onto that, a little closer in. And then if I thought, yep, I want to be up higher. These are all really great explorations of this one pose. Nicely done. And now our legs are like, yeah, boy, we really worked.